Hello, and it's the Warpforge with another Arkham Files. Today we'll be setting the streets of Gotham aflame with Garfield Lynns AKA Firefly. So Firefly is, well, this video we're working on the Arkham Origins variant just in case if you're watching this 3 years from now from its release and they decide to release like CW's Firefly and the animated series Firefly, etc, etc. So this one's only focusing on the Arkham Origins variant. So we have his name is Garfield Lynns, alias Firefly. He's a rank 3 agent who hates Batman, Green Arrow and Law, so he hates good guys obviously because he's a bad guy, a gun for hire. And his affiliate is unknown, so he can join any gang apart from the ones I've just mentioned. We'll have a look at his stats now. His stats basically represent that he has his willpower is 6, which is on par with elite henchmen and some free agents. His strength is 5+, so basically henchman, bogged down henchman level. It doesn't look like he's meant to be used for combat, which is quite obvious when I'll go through the final overview of him at the end of the video. So the movement is 2, standard for a henchman, standard level. Attack 3, defense 3, so just above bog standard henchman level, on par with a more elite henchmen like Scarecrow's militiamen and Bane's expendables. I call them expendables because they do look like they've been ripped straight from the Expendables films franchise. So endurance of 6, so average on par with the usual endurance 6 and 7 for a free agent. And special 3, so that's bog standard for generic everywhere. So we'll have a look at his weapons. He has a flamethrower which uses the expansive template, so I'll pause it and show you how far it can go. So this is the template that Scarecrow uses, well, the Arkham Asylum variant of Scarecrow uses for his fear gas spray. So in the lethal area, which is this bit, the closest part to Garfield Lynns, the Firefly, is a blood and stun damage for the damage. In the serious, the middle bit here. So so lethal's this bit. Seriously is here, which is a blood damage, and mild is the final piece, which is just a stun damage. His rate of fire is 1 for it, so he only fires that template once. His ammo's 2, so he gets to only fire his flamethrower twice in a game. He has mechanical, which damage basically means goes into 40k, basically means to wound. And it's a mechanical 3 up, so that means 3 up to damage anything instead of using your strength value. You have fire, which I'll go on to in a bit later because fire is more of a tactical oversight, and it really does, and it's really devastating. And expansive, which is the exact template that you see before you. He also has a frag grenade, so I'll pause it and show you what the frag grenade is. So there's your frag grenade. It literally kaboom. It does a blood and stun damage. Its rate of fire and ammo is 1 for both, so he only gets to fire this once a game, 1 template. It's short range, so it's 20 centimeters of range. It's a firearm, so it damages on a 2+. It's explosive, which is represented by that, and it has crit of blood damage, so it has a potential of doing 2 blood and stun if you roll 6 on the collateral damage dice. So we'll go back up to a close-up of Garfield. So we have Garfield here. Now if people are wondering why it's wobbling, I don't know why. I'll have to fiddle on with the settings because I've got a new phone, which basically means a new camera. I'm just testing it out at the moment. So his personal trait is a back cape, so if he ever falls and he has a special counter in the special zone, then in the special selection, then he can spend a special to negate any fallen damage. So if anyone somehow manages to pop, say for example, has a sewer, pops killer crop from top of a building, manages to push Firefly off the building, spend a special, no harm done. He has handyman, so that basically means he doesn't require movement counters to manipulate objects, so he doesn't have to spend to manipulate to grab loot, which is an important one, especially for Garfield. I wonder if we can zoom this out. Hey, we've got a bit of a clearer picture now of Mr. Lynns. So handyman basically is the important thing here, is that he can grab loot for free. He can also what would you call it? Yeah, grab ammunition for free, so you can grab ammo from enemies and friendly ammo crates. And he can grab Titan if you're desperate enough to use that. I'll tell you why it's desperate later on. You've got Kevlar Vest. So that basically means you ignore the first result of damage. So say you've got a frag grenade and you manage to damage yourself, or your opponent throws a frag grenade at you and does blood and stun damage, you can choose to either ignore the blood or the stun damage. So you can basically ignore that blood damage and only take the stun damage, which is absolutely fantastic, as I've found out when I've used Mr. Lynns here. So his jetpack, so going on to his special traits. He has two very special traits indeed. He has the fly and hover, which represent his jump pack. His fly uses one movement counter and one special counter, and he basically can move anywhere within 30 centimeters of movement. So imagine it like a sprint, except you get to ignore any sort of cover and any sort of elevation charges. So when I say elevation charges, sometimes some characters will spend movement and special counters to jump up, even vertically now with the new FAQ and errata, to get on top buildings. Garfield ignores, well, I shouldn't really call him Garfield anymore, Firefly, because some people might not take this seriously and think of him as a Saturday comic in the paper. So, Firefly can just ignore that. He literally spends a movement counter, gets on a building, you can fly across, ignore terrain. The only restriction with this is his base has to land flat on wherever he goes, so you can't have a wobbly model syndrome sort of situation with Firefly. It's very black and white where it says this in the rules. You either place them flat or you don't place them at all. Flat or go home, basically. He then has hover. Oh, and if you use fly, you may not use any special movements during the same round as fly. You have hover, which is only one movement counter, and basically what happens is imagine him being like exactly as the model shows there, he's hovering. And what that basically means is any character that wants to hit him with a melee attack, and Batman is quite melee centric because guns are very rare to find and very expensive, shall we say, you'll need a 6-up to hit. So imagine it like, if I'm transitioning it for 40k players, imagine it being like a flyer or a flying monstrous creature where you need to hit them on 6s, except instead of range, it's close combat attacks instead. However, this does have its penalties. If he gets shot down, knocked out, paralysed, pinned down, or stunned, in addition to the effect and whatever damage you may carry, you also suffer a further 2 blood damage. And he loses the hover marker, because you've got a little marker that you just place down next to him saying that he's hovering. And he can't ever benefit from the ping rule. So, true line of sight, if you see anything in between Firefly, like say a barricade between Firefly and whatever guy you're shooting with, or your opponent's shooting with, and the barricade somewhat blocking Firefly here, that doesn't give him any sort of cover bonuses because he's meant to be in midair, as you see here. So, the next has a mental disorder called pyromania. Firefly, it kind of makes sense. He likes fire a lot. He's an arsonist who just deserves, as some people could call it. If at the beginning of his turn the character sees, if the character can see another character with a fire marker, which I'll go into once we're going to tactics, he must move his full available movement straight towards the marker unless he first spends one action counter of the player's choice to resist the urge. So I'll go into that because it's more integrated more with the tactics once we're going for the tactics. So reputation is 72 reputation, and he's quite expensive. He's $450, so he takes a chunk out your cost, and he's very awkward with the extra $50 that happens. As I've found, the extra $50 makes it adding other things into your gangs quite hard to do. So what's his role? What is Firefly's role? He is crowd control. you've seen the template, and the template really hurts henchmen. So what you do with Firefly, or what I've found I've done well with Firefly, is you fly him up to a building, get him on top of a building somewhere, use the fly rule, fly him up there, watch where the positioning of your enemy's henchmen are. Then in the turn after you've moved Firefly, move them down and light them all up. Like, try and figure out where he is, where the opponent's henchmen are, and try and get the maximum amount of hits, because the hits are going to be vital in hurting the opponent. And when I say crowd control, this works against elite gangs like the League of Shadows and the Court of Owls just as well as like Penguin or Two-Face's gangs, which have plenty of henchmen or quite horde-like, and Joker's gang obviously. So he has that, he has the flamethrower, and he fires everything up. If for some reason you don't like the positioning of the enemy units, of the enemy henchmen where they are, and you want to use a few henchmen to bait other guys out to get a specific formation of where your enemy's henchmen are, then you can always fire the frag grenade instead, do a bit of damage, get your opponent a bit panicky about how much damage they've just taken, try and intercept where the enemy moves are, where the enemy positioning are, and try and move them away up. You know, you can if you can play it right, you can manipulate your enemy into believing that he's doing something that's for his benefit, and then Firefly jumps out with the flamethrower and lights everything up. So, the strengths of Firefly? Well, the main strength is his flamethrower, as I've just really said, but his fire. The fire is very volatile. It's very toxic. It's very good for what it does. What it does is, once you've set guy alight, damaged him, and therefore give him the effect of fire, the guy leaves it there unless he spends one action counter to pat himself down, essentially, to get rid of the fire marker. If at the end phase he hasn't spent any markers, and when I say action markers, I mean any action counters from any stat line. If he's got any, he can spend one to negate the fire marker. But if he hasn't done that, he suffers a blood damage and it stacks. So at the end of the turn, if he hasn't got rid of it, he gets another fire marker, and that'll do an extra point of blood damage unless your opponent uses 2 counters to get rid of both fire counters. That cripples your opponents insanely, especially when you've got henchmen that have 5 willpower or 4 willpower. They've then just got 3 willpower because they're literally taking off a counter to get rid of that effect that Firefly's done. He's a nasty son of a bitch. He really is. He costs a fork ton of your funding, but he does his job exceedingly well because of the fire marker. You can set things alight, and then it stacks up unless your opponent deals with it then. If you can't deal with it then, it really just escalates from there like an actual wildfire. So we've got that. The frag grenade, obviously, it doesn't do fire, but it does straightforward damage. You could also try setting guys alight, then throwing a grenade. What you can also do with Firefly, because he has the handyman rule, is you can get him very quickly, hopping from building to building, onto your opponent's loot, or onto your own loot, grab that loot, then fly back. And as you're flying back, use the flamethrower to set other henchmen alight. So he has a multi-variety of tools. He's not just a one-trick pony. You can use him for another trick, so to say. And with Kevlar Vest, you are going to be taking damage, but it shouldn't be as bad as what it was. So what's his weaknesses? And his weaknesses, he plays his strengths very well, but his weaknesses are just as big as his strengths. For example, Firefly has 6 endurance. he doesn't take damage very well. He starts taking damage, he doesn't like that. This is why you always keep him up in buildings. You just fly him up on a building, fly him up on another building, bomb him down, hit and run, and hit and run as quick as you can. Otherwise, Garfield isn't going to like that. Otherwise, Garfield isn't going to like his damage. Firefly does not like damage. His second biggest weakness is his pyromania. Remember when I said about fire markers and your opponent gets fire markers? Well, because he's an arsonist at heart and he loves going towards seeing the pretty fires, if you don't spend one action counter of your choice to resist the urge to do whatever you want with Firefly, then you're going towards the nearest henchman with the pretty fire. And that is very devastating if you don't do that. In addition, that basically means that you have 5 willpower. Once you set that flamethrower, that's it. If you've damaged a guy, you have 5 willpower. Maybe even less if you've taken damage. Now, this isn't to say that Firefly is a glass cannon. I thought he was going to be a glass cannon because of 6 endurance, but that Kevlar vest does a lot more than what it says in the rules. And when I say that, I mean, it's like, you know, when you math hammer and your armchair general and you think, well, that's not as good as it is. But when you actually play the game, it does a lot more than you actually expect. So, for example, when I had a game against Garfield Lynns, I was fighting the Court of Owls. I saw a way to get close to the enemy's henchman, enemy's high courtsman, who was his leader for his gang, and to get quite a few of his henchmen of the O'Malley's and Strix and stuff. So I set them all alight, and then I took a few bits of damage from Strix, shooting a whatever, throwing knives or whatever. Now, because he has the Kevlar vest, he wasn't taking any blood damage at all. He just went, eh. He took the stun damage, but with stun damage, remember, if you've got special counters to spare, you can spend those at the end of the phase, or at the end of the turn, to spend on dice to roll 4 or more to get rid of the stun damage. So he is very good. But, as I learnt later on in the game, once your opponent starts focusing on getting Firefly here, you do end up very overwhelmed, and he will pop off. He will die. And that's where the hover rule comes in. My mistake last time was, because it was my first time using them, I thought I needed a special counter to use hover. I didn't read my card properly, and instead it was 1 movement counter. Had I put 1 movement counter on, it would have been a lot harder for the courtsman to hit him. So because of that one mistake, he went down quite quickly because he was just overwhelmed with attacks from Court of Owls, Talons. So that really, really hurts. But saying that, his weaknesses are as big as his strengths, but he's still worth the 72 rep and the $450 because fire is absolutely devastating. And if you've got like certain models like Mr. Freeze, Fire and Ice, I know, Song of Fire and Ice. Oh, you like that pun. Mr. Freeze has primary target loot, and primary target loot basically means that if Mr. Freeze controls the loot, he gets 2 victory points instead of just 1 victory point for the loot. And victory points make the game. It's not about outright killing. You can try that as a viable tactic, but it's a lot harder to pull off than getting objectives. So most people like to just get objectives. Firefly can play the hot potato very well with the handyman rule. You literally don't spend movement counters to manipulate. You grab the loot, you fly back, and you keep flying back. As long as you announce that you're using handyman to keep control of the loot, you're flying back, easy, no bother. At the next turn, you're dropping off the loot, saying, I'm not going to control the loot, put it in base contact with Victor. Victor then grabs the loot when it's his activation, and you've just scored 2 to 4 points because you've grabbed the loot, and then you're flying back, which will cost victory points because you'll be getting victory points as you bring it back to Victor. And then Victor grabs it and goes, yep, Look at me. 2 victory points. Yo, gonna freeze. Yo. So, Fire and Ice is a viable tactic. It's very expensive. That's $950 with Mr. Freeze and Firefly. But if you keep playing it, you'll get better. You will get better, and you'll start seeing the benefits more than the rep cost, if that makes sense. The rep and the funding cost. So that's one tactic or combo synergy that you can use with another free agent. But Firefly is entirely flexible. You can go into a lot of gangs. The only gang that I really wouldn't advise is Joker, but Joker is only because Joker's very greedy. He's his own gang. He likes using Chaos Agent for his own things. However, if you've got Titan Joker or Harley as your leader from the Arkham Knight variant, then you can use Firefly because they allow a lot more flexibility in lists, aside from Titan Joker's massive cost in reputation. So, aside from that, Firefly is a very flexible unit. You can go into a majority of gangs, apart from the good guys. He does his role exceedingly well. He has his downsides, but his strengths are more beneficial. You looked more about his benefits than you do about his weaknesses. His weaknesses are quite big, but you want to be playing for his benefits, and the benefits will reward you as you play Firefly here. So, that was Firefly. That was Garfield Lynns from the Arkham Origins variant of him. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more Arkham files, then please give this video a like. And if you want to see more on upcoming Arkham files as I get these minis painted, then please click the subscribe button. If you want to talk about anything with Firefly here, then please comment below. If you want to share this video out to other people who might have Firefly and you think that this might be helpful advice for them, then please share it, get the name out there, and get the advice out there, really. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the Wolf Forge signing out, and remember, keep on forging.